Hey crafty cuties, welcome back to Paper Terrace. If you're new, I'm Jessica. Today we are going to make some really pretty paper for our Bohemian journal series, but don't worry if you are just here for the paper. We're going to hop right in and we are going to do a few experiments along the way, but I'm going to show you everything that I do to make really pretty lace coffee dyed paper. Now, I wanted to jump in here real quick just to say, stick with me till the end of the video if you want to see how I flatten my pages with an iron and without, and if you would like to see me make a bulk coffee dyed paper all in one go. So stick around for that, that will be at the end. Don't worry, also, if you have never coffee dyed paper, we're gonna go over the basics just super quick, and then we'll get into the fun part. So I have this aluminum pan here that I really like to use. I got it from the Dollar Tree. It works great, perfect size, and it's messy and dirty, but I don't have to worry about keeping it clean. Today I'm going to be using some instant coffee, but if you just have regular coffee that you've already brewed, you can absolutely use that. I find that I get the same effect, but this is just easier because I don't have any coffee that is brewed. I have my pan filled about halfway, and I'm just going to add in, I never measure this, but gosh, maybe that's like a quarter of a cup, and then I just kind of swish it around. You can use a spoon if you want. Man, the words are not coming to me today. But I just make sure that it's a pretty dark colored coffee. Now, also, if you don't want your hands to get super brown and icky, you are going to want to wear some gloves. Highly recommend. I like to use just plain copy paper. This is the really thin copy paper. This is always what I use. I have a good result with it every single time. The other supplies that I think are important to this tutorial is the plastic doilies. Now that is the key. They do need, well, in my experience I should say, they do need to be like a plastic or yeah, some type of a plasticky material to get the really good designs from the lace. I got these from Amazon, so I will throw that link down below. It's an affiliate link, but you can probably find these other places. I have seen them at the Dollar Tree before too. I don't know why I did not pick them up. But I also have a spray ink that I have on hand to get an even darker impression. This one is a super old ink. It's Delusion's Melted Chocolate, but you could use any spray, or you could also just dilute some coffee really to a darker color and put it into a spray bottle, and you can use that as well. The one thing to keep in mind when you're doing coffee dyed paper, it's simple. You can't mess it up. It can take some practice, maybe not to tear the pages, but other than that, there's really no right or wrong way. So let me show you a couple different ways that I like to start out basic coffee dyeing paper. And I just take my copy paper, I'm gonna dip it into the coffee solution. There's just so many different ways that you really can coffee dye, but I find this to be the easiest. And I just go ahead and make sure that every single part of the paper is dipped into the coffee. And then what I like to do is actually fold it in half. This is just my preferred way to stack a bunch of pages and to keep them out to dry. So I fold it in half, and then I set it over on my area that I have some saran wrap laid out, just because I'm doing this on my counter, and then I basically just keep going from there. And it's a really quick process to get a bunch done at once. So again, I'm just gonna dip it through the coffee. I fold it in half, usually in my coffee. I don't know why, that just works best for me. And then I set it over right on top of the next, and I just keep going like that until I have a bunch of stacks. And I actually usually like to set this out to just dry like overnight, or if it's a sunny day, that's perfect. But if you're in a rush, you can also go ahead, set it on, I usually use a pan. It's one of these aluminum pans again, just like that. I keep my oven around 275. I'll pop it in. So I'll show you what these ones look like at the end, but let's get on to the more fun design ones, which is using the lace. And so for this, I like to make sure that my pages are not too soaked in these coffee solution. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and dip it in just like before, but this time I'm not gonna fold it just because I want that design on the full piece of paper. But you can still fold it if that's what you prefer, and you can have that design on half of your page. Then I'm going to go ahead and set it over on my area. I'll move you over just a bit. And then for this part, I actually take a paper towel and I kind of get any of the excess. That is going to make this a little bit lighter color, but I just find that for dry time it just makes sense to do. Then I'm going to take my plastic lace napkin or doily and lay it right on top. If you do this just right, you can use this for more than one page, but I'm just going to lay it right on top like that. And then I'm just going to keep stacking. So I'm going to take one more. I'm going to go ahead and dip it in the coffee solution off to the side, which you can't quite see, but I wanted you to see how I layer this. And then I'm just going to layer it right on top. And then I'm going to just try to take up most of the excess. But let me show you one more trick if you really want your design to be like super dark. And by the way, if you can see, I have excess over here. So if I'm doing this off camera, I would also stack some over here so that a part of the page gets the design. But just to kind of show you. So I'm gonna dip another page. And you can stack these really as high as you want. So what I'm going to do next is actually take another one of my doilies, or not doilies, but plastic napkins here. I'm going to do that again. I'm going to layer that. I'm going to lay this on top. It's really honestly quite simple, but the thing here is you just have to be patient to let these dry, because you cannot put this plastic in the oven to dry. At least I wouldn't do that, but in the past I have put these outside in the sun, and so if you are still lucky to have sun, absolutely put these outside because they will dry a lot quicker. Okay, so like I said, if you want a darker image, what I would do here is we're going to take our spray, our ink spray or super diluted coffee spray, and right on top of this you're gonna really make sure there's not too much liquid, because otherwise you don't get a really good impression of the design. But I'm just gonna take this and spray all over. My ink's like a little bit red brown, but it looks really pretty, I think. And if you are in a hurry, what you can do here is go ahead and give this a minute to sit. Make sure to get most of the excess liquid, because if you pull this off while there's still liquid underneath, then the design just won't be super precise. It'll still be pretty, but it's not going to be as precise. Then, once you think you got most of that excess liquid up, you can do a little test here. And we're going to pull it up to see. See, it's still pretty liquidy, so again, I'm just going to get up a little bit more of that liquid. And again, this is going to be the quicker version where we spray some ink to get that image to show up quicker and darker. So you can see how excess liquid really plays a part in here. And so the least amount of liquid, the better design you're going to get. But this is still really pretty, and so now what we can do is, now since we took the plastic napkin off, we can actually go ahead, set this on our tray, which I'll show you. I'm just gonna set it right on top. I have two of the folded coffee dyed papers underneath, but that's fine for right now. So I'm just gonna set it flat down, and I'm gonna dry this in the oven at 275 for a few minutes. I'm just gonna keep my eye on it. Now, I would not stack these if you are wanting to keep that more precise image, but if you don't really care too much, you can go ahead and put a bunch of these on, and you'll still get some kind of a design. So I'm gonna pop these in the oven, and then we can continue making a few more together. So I'm just gonna keep my eye on that. Bring you back over here, and we'll just continue making a few. Now later in the week, I am getting some new oxide ink sprays. They're kind of like this, but if you haven't used them, it's like more of a chalky, really pretty colors ink. And I'm going to be making some watercolor papers similar to this, but just prettier, more like light colors that will look watercolory. And so I'm going to be making those for this journal as well, and I cannot wait. So right now I'm just going to go ahead and just start coffee dyeing a big batch of these. I'm going to go ahead and just start stacking a bunch of these, and I'm just going to leave these out to dry. I'll leave you guys right now, but in just a second you will see some of the finalized coffee dyed lace papers. Let me know if you have any questions. By the way, you can also use different stencils and get a very similar look, but I love the look of the lace, and I highly recommend grabbing some from Amazon or wherever you can get your hands on. Remember, it just has to be plastic. Okay, so these are the papers that I dried in the oven. So I thought I would just give you a little sneak peek of those so you don't have to wait till the very end. And then after this, we are going to flatten these together with an iron. I'll show you how to do it without an iron, and we're going to make a large amount of coffee dyed papers all in one pan with the leftover coffee dyed solution that I had. I have the rest of the pages that will be air drying, and I'll show you the results of those at the end, and those are up on my countertop right here. You can see I have them stacked up pretty high there. So we are going to go through and I'll show you all of the oven pages. Now, I sometimes like my pages to be left crinkly, but for this project I thought I would go ahead and flatten them out because I did it one time and really liked it. So see, some of these were just the plain coffee dyed pages, and you'll see that some of these still have designs on them because I reuse the same pans, and you'll see that they do pick up some of the marks from those pans, and that's why I really love reusing the pans, because I love that look. So here we go. This was one of the pages that was folded and just had some of the plastic lace on one side, but then it was on top of another one too, so you see that light image right there. This is super pretty right here. There's a full page of the lace design, and on the back as well. I'm going to grab my iron. I'm just going to keep my iron on a medium heat, and I'm just gonna kind of quickly go over and flatten everything out just like if you were ironing clothes, which I never actually do. I do not iron clothes. Do you guys have clothes that you iron? I feel like growing up my mom was always ironing clothes, although maybe it was like my dad's work shirts now that I think about it. And I guess Hans, he does iron a lot of his clothes, so I guess that would be why, but he just does it himself. Yeah. Okay, so we flip it over, do the other side if you want, and then you can work at this for as long as you want to get it as perfectly straight as you like. To be quite honest, I don't usually iron the paper. I do think it looks really, really nice, but I'm usually too lazy, and I usually am doing like 100 pages at once. So what I do, and if you don't want to use an iron, I would suggest this as well, because you'll get a very similar end result, is stack up your pages like as high, like sometimes I'll even have like 40 pages in one pile, and you know, we could probably stack a bunch of these and actually iron them all at once, but that's not what I was gonna say. And I just put heavy books on top. Sometimes I'll even put some heavy cans on top if I have a really big pile. You do need to leave those overnight, but you absolutely get a pretty flattened out look. I'm gonna go ahead and actually just try real quick, and then we'll move on to the bulk coffee dye pan that we're gonna do. I'm kind of just curious. Now, of course, you don't want to leave this on your paper for too long, but let's see. I mean, again, it's hard to tell on camera because a lot of this fold is not actually a fold in the paper. That's just from the coffee dye. You can't exactly, yeah, that doesn't work so great. So anyways, we'll stick to the books for the big piles, or if you want to go ahead and take the time to iron your pages. Okay, let's go on to the bulk coffee dyeing grungy look. I'm gonna take my extra coffee dye solution here, and I'm gonna put it in a cup because it'll be easier to pour. I'm gonna do that over the sink so I don't spill it everywhere. So I have my coffee here, very full, and I'm gonna use an aluminum pan. I'm gonna add the rest of my instant coffee into the liquid here because I do want this to be kind of grungy. Whoops, I didn't actually mean to put it all, but that's okay. We're gonna just let that be, kind of mix it up with my finger, call it good. We have a mess everywhere. We wanna go ahead and get started with a little bit of coffee on the bottom here. I had some left over in my pan, so I'm just gonna And the reason I'm not using this pan is because I can't really lay the pages down flat very easily, and I want that to be able to, I want them to lay flat. So I think the key here is going to be, I've seen people do this so many different ways. Again, there's always a bunch of different ways to do things like this, but you're going to want to make sure that each page is just really, really saturated, because if there's dry spots in between, I do think that maybe they could start sticking together. So I'm just going to get messy and just start making sure that everything is saturated well. And then we're just going to stack pages, laying them down and pouring in coffee. Really try not to make a mess here. Now I still have some coffee grounds, and I actually was wanting to add a few extra coffee grounds just to see what kind of look we get, or maybe if there will be spots of dark. So I'm not even going to worry about like making sure that those are mixed in. I'm just going to start adding pages. Once we have a good amount of coffee in here, we won't have to keep adding, but oh my gosh, this is definitely a mess because of how I am pouring it. But we're just gonna keep this up until we can't add any more pages, really. And yeah, since I have a bunch in here, I'm just gonna also try to use up kind of the coffee that's in here, if that makes sense. Again, just making sure that everything's saturated. So just keep adding and adding, just keep adding coffee and then paper. I had some more space over here and I just want to get the most out of it, so I folded a piece for over here. Now of course, the more paper and the more, you know, liquid that you have in here, the longer this is going to take in the oven, so just keep that in mind. I don't really know how much extra time this is going to save you, but I am excited to see if we get a grungier look. I've only done this once, but I didn't have them this saturated at all. I more so just had a pan of coffee dyed papers that were like dipped in coffee. Okay, so I think we're going to experiment and keep this one. I probably have like 12 pages in here, I think. And I am going to go ahead and put this in the oven like so. Now you can see I have a lot of extra liquid here. I'm going to keep that liquid for now, but I'm going to put it in the oven for about 10 minutes. And then I am going to start draining excess liquid every 10 minutes or so until we're mostly left with paper. But I think to get a grungy look, we'll want to keep some of that liquid to really let those soak in while they're baking. And you could just set this aside and wait a bit, but we're going to experiment. I'm going to put this one in the oven. After 10 minutes, a lot of the water has actually already gone down, you can see. So I'm going to go ahead and actually dump out just about half of this to let it keep working on getting that dark look. If you wanted, you can even add a few instant coffee granules on top. Should probably do that after I drain the liquid, but you get the point. So I'm going to keep sticking it in the oven, taking it out every 10 minutes, and at the end I'll let you know how long I kept it in there. I added some of the coffee granules to the top of this one, and you can see it's getting very nice and grungy. This was in there for about another 15 minutes, and so I think I'm going to finally just drain the rest of the coffee and then let them dry all the way so that we can see how these papers are going to look. So I felt like I had to include this to let you guys know that as it's getting time to where it's almost dry, what I've been doing is separating the sheets. You probably don't have to do this, but I just am because I'm kind of in a hurry. And I'm separating them and kind of going through and laying them out, just kind of separating them. I don't know how else to explain it, but I'll separate them and just kind of laying them out so that they are not super stuck to one another, because it does seem like at first they're going to be stuck to each other. So I just pull them apart and kind of laying them a different way, and they are turning out so grungy. So I'm going to just continue that. So I divided these into piles, and these are the more grungy ones that were put in the oven as a bulk coffee dye order. And then we have some of our lace. So let's just go through and I can show you the results. These are my most favorite grungy coffee dyed papers. Look at that. I mean, truly grungy. that I've ever done. So I will absolutely be doing that again. Arlo's here with me. Look at the cool designs. Like, now, I will say the ones that were on top definitely got more grungy. So if you're able to rotate the papers as you go, and once you have your very grungiest top layer, you can take that off, and then you'll have another top layer. But I also really like, hang on one sec, Arlo, we're working on the grungy side, so keep that down. So I do love so much the different effects that you get just from that one pan. I actually did 2 pans of this. You can look at that one. So thank you. Oh, that's perfect. So there's tons of these. Obviously, I'm not going to go through all of them. Okay, so let's show them the pretty lace papers now. Okay. And these were, I think, mostly all, hang on, Arlo, the ones that did, no, these have to stay just right here, okay? Okay. These are the ones that air dried. So you can see the fronts and backs on a lot of these. Did get the design. I kind of mixed these up, but the ones that have the more precise designs were the ones that, we can't have it that close, Arlo, okay, honey? Okay. Yeah, anyways, I think you guys get what I'm saying. It's a little hard to keep my train of thought here. So like these ones right here, even though these were light colored ones, these were out. You can see the back's a little bit darker. These are also, so I am super happy with these results. Like I said, I've already done the lace ones before. I think this one was in the oven. But the grungy is absolutely what I'm so excited for. If you guys stay tuned, I'm going to be making some watercolor dyed papers next, or it will at least be one of the next few videos. And I definitely think I want to try out this kind of process that we did with keeping all of the watercolor in the pan and then just cooking it to see if we can get a grungy watercolor effect. But stay tuned for that video because we'll try all kinds of things. And I have so much coffee dyed paper now. I'm really excited. I hope this video was helpful to you guys, and I will see you in the next, can you say bye, Arlo?
Bye.
Bye.